So there's some people who are sitting back and saying, wow, Caleb, that's great. Why don't you go give a philosophy course on that? We're all so blown away. Well, what does that actually mean for you is the question. What would socialism in the United States look like? Well, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how to do magic. I can't predict the future. But I can give you an idea of what it might look like. Right now, our country is in shambles. Bridges are decaying. Highways are crumbling. Hospitals are being shut down and schools are being closed. Yet, at the same time, we are sitting on a gold mine. All over our country, we have millions of young people. The millennial generation is arguably the most educated and skilled generation in American history. So many young people with so much to offer the world are stuck in low-wage, short-term jobs, living in their parents' basements. A revolutionary socialist government in Washington, D.C. would immediately unleash them. With the money now being spent on military adventurism, corporate bailouts, and foreign aid to criminal regimes and other wasteful endeavors, a new socialist government would immediately hire every American between the age of 18 and 30. They would begin building high-speed trains, paving new highways, along with revamping the country's hospitals and rebuilding our schools and universities. The next generation would be put to work restoring our national parks and natural wonders. The country would also get a high-tech upgrade. There's no reason that every inch of this country shouldn't have accessible, high-quality Wi-Fi. Our university system could be revamped, so we once again start churning out the most brilliant and most well-trained engineers and scientists in the world. A socialist regime in Washington, D.C. would immediately hire the physicists of the country to start working on the development of fusion energy. Our engineers would start making breakthroughs in artificial intelligence. Capitalism will do none of this. With the market, we have millions of people in prison and poverty, with a few smarter people figuring out derivative rip-offs and financial schemes. But what the market is unable to do can be done with popular power. And of course, the question that always gets thrown at us is, who's going to pay for all of this, right? Well, in addition to the untapped potential of the millennial generation, right now we are sitting on yet another gold mine. Right now, the United States is the top oil and natural gas producing country on Earth. However, you would never know it. In fact, a lot of the states with extreme amounts of poverty, Louisiana, Texas, Pennsylvania, they're some of the wealthiest in terms of natural resources. Our country is very wealthy in terms of natural resources, but we don't get any share of this wealth. We get poorer every day as the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Kochs, and the Morgans are getting rich from our natural resources. Well, I say it's about time that we say that there's no reason that America's oil, America's natural gas, America's timber, America's coal shouldn't be used to make America a more prosperous country. There's nothing special about the Wall Street class. You and me have just as much right to the oil and natural gas under the ground as the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. There's no moral or logical reason that the proceeds from our natural resources shouldn't be used to build a new America. Furthermore, I think that transitioning towards socialism would probably include some amendments to our Constitution. In addition to protecting the right of free speech, the right of freedom of religion, and the right to bear arms, I think we need a new Bill of Rights declaring that every citizen has the right to a job. Every person should have the right to do useful work in order to build up the country and get paid for the labor that they do. It doesn't matter whether some capitalist can make money off of hiring you. Furthermore, I think every American should have the right to see a doctor when they're sick. The insurance cartels, the pharmaceutical criminals should be put out of business. Nothing as precious as human life should be left in the hands of profiteers. Socialism is not about poverty. It's not about going back to nature and dancing around in the woods. Socialism in the Soviet Union brought us space travel. 100 years ago, Russia was a country of illiterate peasants. Today, it's a world industrial power. Russia's steel mills, oil wells, power plants, hospitals, and schools weren't built by loans from the IMF. They were built by Stalin's 5-year plans, mobilizing the population to build the country up from poverty. And no, socialism was not a big failure. Socialism defeated the Nazis during World War II. Socialism brought us LED lights, the AK-47 rifle, and the video game known as Tetris. Before 1949, China had no steel mills. I once heard a TV commentator say, socialism produced nothing but gulags. Well, I've got news for you. Half the steel in the world today is being produced in China's state-run, government-controlled steel industry. Because of the achievements of socialism with Chinese characteristics, Right now, the global tourism industry is having a boom. The children and grandchildren of malnourished peasants are now going on vacation to Paris, London, New York City. The kind of historic transformation which happened in Russia and in China is not happening in Bangladesh or Honduras or other countries where the international bankers have been given free rein to invest with sweatshops and air pollution. Compare the living conditions of people in Cuba, universal housing, universal literacy, universal medical care, to the achievements of the free market in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, or Jamaica, or other countries throughout the Caribbean. The truth is that when society is not held back by greed, real miracles can happen. Now, I know what everyone in this room is probably thinking. They're saying, well, Caleb, what about the Cultural Revolution? What about the gulags? What about the Moscow trials? I'm not here to defend any of that. Why? I don't know anyone who advocates that we go over to Russia, or go over to China, or go over to Cuba, dig up the corpse of Mao or Stalin or Fidel Castro, resuscitate them from the dead, and put them in charge of the United States. I don't know anyone who advocates that, and I think that would be kind of a dumb thing to try and do, frankly. I don't trust our mainstream media, owned by capitalists, to tell us the history of socialism, but I'm sure that these leaders made big mistakes in addition to their tremendous achievements. And ultimately, what these leaders did and what they achieved, what they did wrong, this is an issue that will be resolved by historians in Cuba, in China, Russia, Korea, and elsewhere. And it's not really of deep importance to this conversation. Why? Because the kind of socialism that works in China is called socialism with Chinese characteristics. And the only type of socialism that is ever going to work in this country is going to be a socialism with American characteristics. Some kind of Chinese, Russian, or Korean system is never going to be imposed on this country.